We try to give a CISO or even a consumer the perfect overview which product protects against malicious stuff, which protects against threats. And for us, it's most important then that we act as ethical hackers.
If we are to look, from maybe 20, 25 years ago, the attack surface generally evolves and it always becomes larger.
There are only three types of users. Either you have been breached, you are breached and you don't know it, or you will be breached.
Why this happens on Friday? Because, if you think from their perspective, they were kind of expecting, I'm going to go home, weekend.
Of course.
And maybe the attackers actually think about this as well.
Hi everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Cybercrime from the Frontline. This is a new episode and I have some special guests with me today. I have Lucian, I have Dragos, and I have Peter. I'd like to invite them to introduce themselves. Today we're going to talk about independent testing. So Peter, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Peter Stelzhammer from AV-Comparatives, and all we do is independent testing of cybersecurity solutions.
Awesome.
So, hi, and thanks for having me back here again, Dan. So I'm Dragos Gavrilut. I'm the Vice President of Threat Research here in Bitdefender. I handle different technologies in terms of detection and the response. And
Hi, I'm Lucian Cucueanu. Happy to be here. I'm with the Core Technologies and Performance Unit, and you can think of my team as such as the gearbox connecting multiple engines to the car. And it's what we do here. We keep a very thin balance between performance detections and false positives and usability on the other side. Thank you.
Awesome, welcome. I'm very excited to have you guys. Peter, you are obviously a special guest. We have a bunch of questions, of course. We're just talking how we're living in cybersecurity. We're living in an ecosystem, but between vendors and independent labs that do the testing and stuff. And it's been going on for a long time that the customers have relied on trustworthy data on making their choices on what their products should choose. And I want to revisit that because I feel like even though we kind of know what's going on, I'd like us to have a conversation and understand how things have evolved over the years. Where have it gone to? What are the new capabilities? What the new solutions? So let's start from the very beginning. Maybe you could give us a little history of your work, and let's decide together what independent testing means in 2025.
Yeah, let's start with the beginning, with the offline on-demand testing, which was really a nice stuff. You put some malware samples, some files on a hard drive, run an on-demand scan offline because there was no internet connection needed at this time. And it was a really easy test. It has been replicable as often as you wanted to do it. And it was really easy. And nowadays, we have to test products fully online against sophisticated social attacks with following all the steps. So testing really evolved in the last 25 years.
Excellent. And I want to kind of throw this out there, and I'd like you to discuss. So what's the independent part of the independent testing?
So our goal is to deliver test results all across all the different vendors. We try to give a CISO or even a consumer the perfect overview which product protects against malicious stuff, which protects against threats, different kinds of threats, phishing, malware, spear-phishing attacks, social attacks, everything, you name it. And we try to compare all the products against the same threats on the same geographic location to do a real AV-Comparatives publication where users can just compare what they get.
And make their own decisions. And Dragos, you've spent your entire career dreading a test potentially, or thinking about how tests will, how the products will stack up against a test or another. What's the relation? What's the symbiosis there from the perspective of the researcher?
Okay. So there are, let's say, several approaches that we can always have here. What's important to, at least from our perspective, meaning from the cybersecurity researcher perspective, tests provide us guidance into some scenarios that we have not think about. So obviously, everybody has some sort of testing lab internally, something that they can test. They don't necessarily release everything in the market as they are. They test things, but you cannot have overview of everything. That's one. The second one, there is always some sort of bias. So for example, if I know that I have created a detection of some sort, yes, I will create some test that will validate the detection, but I cannot know 100% for certain that, this is what I am going to see in the market, this is what I am going to see from the attacker perspective, and so on. So there is some form of bias related to how we actually validate our products. On the other hand, if we think, from a tester perspective, they most likely see us as a black box. So it's a product, I'm going to test it, I'm going to see the detection. I don't necessarily know exactly how they're actually performing those detections. So because of this, in many cases, they are more focused on the attack per se, the variance of the attack, rather than the technology that can actually detect the attack. Obviously, there are some nuances here, depending on the type of the test, but from our perspective, this actually helps a lot in improving the detection. So whenever we have something where we don't detect some sort of an attack, or maybe we detect it in a later stage, not in the first stage. So again, as I said, there are multiple nuances here. Then this is where test really, really helps. And it's the same for false positives. So one key aspect that we always loved about this kind of test is that they are not focusing on only one aspect. Like, let's see how well you detect, a bunch of scenarios, because then you can, just create something that will detect everything, and yeah, you have 100%. It's always a balance between how many things you detect, what is the amount of false positive, and later on I'm going to let Lucian explain the balance with the performance and usability. And because of this, we can always improve in terms of detection, but also keep a close eye on the false positive part, where we should also improve. And all of these tests are always designed in such a way that they can show you both sides. This is how many scenarios you have detected. This is the amount of false positive that you have, and you always need to improve on both of them. Okay, so that's one perspective from a security engineer. And Lucian, maybe you want to discuss, but from a performance.
Yeah, pretty much you covered what's important in this test. When you build your own data sets and you build your own scenarios, you tend to have a narrow view of the world. And independent test labs, that's what they do. They look at the world, they try to bring it as close as possible. And on the other hand, you have this comparison with the other competitors, and you know where your place is into the industry.
And kind of to sum it up, I think what matters most about a cybersecurity product is how fast it is, the capability to detect, and obviously, like you said, how easy it is to use, I guess, right? If we're discounting the price, or so basically, these are the core tenets of the lighter.
And I do believe we do need to clear a couple of things. For different organization, different parameters might be more relevant. Exactly. So for some organization, maybe price will be more relevant. So, a detection over a certain threshold will be enough if the price is small enough, for example. For others, price might not be necessarily that relevant. However, the number of false positive or the ratio false positive versus detection might be more relevant. In other scenarios where, they have to perform a lot of operation fast, they might need a faster product. That's why, you cannot think about tests as that they provide only one chart, but, maybe multiple charts, and different organizations can choose based on their own requirements what product fits the best for them.
We give a 360-degree overview about the product. So as you mentioned, false positives, protection, ease of use, and all of that stuff. And for us, it's most important then that we act as ethical hackers, because we have to breach the product. We have to look for the weaknesses in the product. With a standard test, each product would score well. So that's not an issue. If you use some well-known malicious files, everybody will detect it. So you have to have really sophisticated guys, pen testers, ethical actors in the test lab, which are keen to learn more and to think like a hacker, so that we can breach the products and look at the weaknesses. Testing is only as good as the testers are. So, because if you look at some tests, they're just doing a feature check if the product works, but that doesn't say anything about the product. You have to look at the lifetime of the product, not only how it performs in the last 24 hours. You have to look at the last 3, 4, 5 years. A product has to be continuously good. Because if you install a product in an environment, in a company, in an enterprise, you don't want to change it anymore, because that's a lot of work. So you have to decide well which product you put on your systems. If you're a small accountant office, it doesn't matter if you have 3 or 5 computers. But if you're an insurance company or a large company with 50,000, 60,000 clients, then you have to really have a good product which have a historical good reviews. And on the other hand, it doesn't matter how much a product costs. A breach is always more expensive than the license cost of a product.
It's an excellent point. I was trying to follow. I've always thought how much weight there is for a test to reflect the value in real world scenarios for the decision makers who need to buy these products. So how do you, how have you spent the time, and how did it evolve over the years to make sure that you're up there and always making the product relevant in an ever-changing space? How did you how did you keep the testing successfully relevant up to these years?
You have to keep up with the stuff the hackers do and with the stuff which is possible. Because if you think it's impossible, someone makes it possible. The hackers are smart guys, they're really intelligent. They're not the students which are saying, I try to open a CD-ROM drive just for fun. It's an online organized crime nowadays. So they're built up like a company, they have a structure. It's really it is online organized crime. And we have to keep up with this. We have to evolve testing. As I told 20 years ago, it was offline file detection testing. And then we had to change testing because of the new methodologies, the new attack vectors, like tampering a product, switching it off, that malicious stuff can walk through. So that's the important thing, that we always have to be one step ahead of the bad guys as well. Not only as a cybersecurity vendor has to be a step ahead, but we as a tester have to be a step ahead as well. So we have to be the better hackers than the real life out there hackers are.
So you have no idea what's coming when the test is upcoming. So you're really making the best product you can, and you're hoping that's going to score well. And
yeah, generally yes. So now the tests aren't that general. They do cover a specific type of thing. So it's a test for a product. So for example, I'm not going to send the Windows product and I'm going to be tested for Android, for example. So I do know some things, at least in the line of, what kind of operating system I need to be, what kind of product I need to provide there. But yeah, besides this, generally there is no idea on what the test might contain. And that's actually a really, really good thing, because it's what keeps this thing work really well. I would also add that if we are to look, from maybe 20, 25 years ago, the attack surface generally evolves and it always becomes larger. I never seen, so historically speaking, I never seen the attack surface become smaller, but rather getting other elements that are going to be added to the attack surface and so on. So from this perspective, yeah, test, and I do agree with Peter here, need to evolve to actually sweep the attack surface. So look, right now we're talking about AI and different things that happen with AI. To be fair, there aren't that many attacks that are related to AI, but at some point in the future, I'm quite certain that this will change. Just as I'm quite certain that, testing labs will have to adjust to this at some point in the future. Not necessarily, but that's a very clear example on what we think about the evolving attack surface. Peter, by the way, you can dispute this if you.
No, at this time we see machine language AI generated malware samples already, but they're not very well done, because if you feed the AI with bad samples, you get bad samples out of there. But the amount of sample increases. So, and there's no time to produce a sample needed anymore. It's faster done with AI. And if you look at phishing, large language models can do perfect phishing emails, answer phishing emails, and that in multiple languages. There are no grammatical errors anymore. There are no full stops missed. So you can write a perfect phishing email with large language models now. And that's also a thing we need to adopt as testers, because we have to look at this, we have to simulate those attacks, and we have to give the whole picture. So we have to do different tests for the same product. And what is also important, that we're testing 24/7, because the hacker never sleeps.
Right.
So we have to test on Christmas, when the technical guys of the AV cybersecurity vendors are below their Christmas trees and celebrating Christmas. We have to test on that day as well.
One of our pain points.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what you said. Like, I think we just saw it. It just happened like that. Everything we knew from a, let's say, like end user perspective of what a phishing email looks like, all the bad grammar, all the little mistakes, all the poor English if it was English or whatever, all that's gone. It just happened overnight. That's disappeared completely. And whoever is not using some form of a language model or another to produce these is definitely going to switch very soon. So given how fast that transformation happened, it seems like both the whole industry needs to progress as well, right? Both from the perspective of the product itself and the testing. So kind of before we jump into, because I want to ask you a couple of more things about this and try to look into the future. I want to understand what makes a good product stand out today. How do you evaluate a great?
A good product stands out in different ways. First of all, it has to have perfect protection, which, to be honest, no product has, because we don't live in a perfect world. And if we test, we can't reproduce the worst world as well. We have only certain attacks we can use. So even if you see a product with 100% protection in our test, there might be attacks outside which they're not protecting against. So that's the first part. It has to be a protection as good as they can do. On the second hand, it should not slow down the computer too much, because if it slows down the computer, you can't work with it anymore. It should not produce false positives, because if there's a false positive on your accounting software, you can't work. You're standing still. Nothing can happen. And it should be reasonably priced. Even if a breach is much more expensive than the license cost ever will be, it should be competitive. You can't pay $200, $300 a month for a security software for a client. It has to be reasonably priced. And the other aspect, it should be a fit for the enterprise. It should be ease of use, so it should be installable and usable for a small office or for an enterprise. And therefore, usually vendors have different products for different audience. And that's also a thing we are looking for in our reports. So it's protection, false positive, speed impact, and ease of use.
Ease of use.
Yeah.
And of course, like you said, price is probably the other.
Total cost of ownership.
But we've looked probably over the years how the gap between different products has narrowed more and more, right? We're seeing a lot of exceptional results from multiple vendors. Does that entice you to concoct new ways of testing to differentiate further, or is just we're gotten to a point where the industry's progressed enough that we're feeling good about the, like you said, not we're not talking perfection, but we're talking a good set of
Looking at the results, we see there is still a difference in products. There are the top products are very close. Then there is a gap, and then there are the not so good products. And sometimes you have to decide between a product which is not so good and a product which is very good. And the decision for you as a CISO should be very easy. Take the better one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, your recommendation. So how does a CISO or an end user, in your view, ideally consume the results of the tests?
The CISO, the end consumer, should have a look at the whole test sets. We do different tests. So he should have a look at all the different tests. Therefore, different approaches, like for file servers or for protecting the customer while browsing the website, or also for firewalls, for protecting the network. And there you can have a look at the different results. And especially in one of our tests where we follow the whole attack chain. That's very important. Where we start with social engineering, following up with the user who is clicking on accident on a link, infiltrating the computer, following the C2 channel, and following a real simulated attack, which happens nowadays. A combination of all these tests gives you the big picture of the products, of the different products. And also with the ease of use, you can pick the right product for you. There might be a different product for a small office than for a large office. It might be from the same vendor, but a different product. Or there might be vendors which are focusing on smaller companies or focusing on large enterprises.
So we were talking about earlier how you have to take into account more advanced attacks. Maybe you can walk me in general through the process of estimating the performance of products for these attacks.
Yeah, we usually use in the endpoint prevention and response test 50 different attacks to cover the product in all the different techniques they use to protect the user, and we also use the different attack techniques to simulate which happens out there. So our goal is to mimic real world, what the hackers are doing to the customers and to the enterprises, because there's no sense to send a file via email, an executable, because everybody blocks it. Even the email filter already blocks an executable attached to an email. So we have to do sophisticated attacks. Usually it starts with a spear-phishing, continues with a malicious link, and tries on one hand to switch off the cybersecurity product at all, that you can do after switching off the cybersecurity product, that you can do everything you want with the computer with the victim.
How long does a test usually take on average?
That depends on the type of test. For our real-world protection test, we run in iterations of 2 months, 24/7, with a lot of malicious URLs where we browse to, a lot of phishing emails in it. And then we have also our malware protection test, which is used to simulate files which are on a server. How can that server be cleaned up? Or if there's a USB stick, a malicious USB stick, how can it be cleaned up on copy? And surprisingly, some products are very good at it. Some products don't even care, because they are products they don't care if a file is copied to the hard drive. It's a different technology products use. Some try not to block any file. You can copy a malicious file on your hard drive because it doesn't slow down the computer, but they block on execution. So what we have to do is not only copy or infiltrate the computer, we have also to execute each thread we see. Because some products are blocking only on execution. Some stuff is only doing malicious stuff on execution even. So we have seen malicious stuff only acting on different types of keyboards, like on a German keyboard or on an English keyboard, but not with a Cyrillic jar set on it. So it's quite strange. So we have to take this all into consideration to give the holistic overview.
And this is the same pattern that you are taking into account when designing the whatever iteration.
So from the technology point of view, yeah, there are two aspects here. It's when you can detect something, like Peter said, analyzing a component statically provides some sort of information. You might not be able to actually infer something from that. you might need to analyze it from a dynamic perspective where you get a different kind of information on how that component behaves. So you need to balance between those two. That's why we kind of use a layered protection. So that's one aspect. The other one, and I'm actually going to let Lucian talk here, is what kind of information you can actually get and to what price. Because maybe in order for me to analyze a certain type of aspect, maybe how certain type of APIs are being used, I need to perform some actions that are not going to be that easy to model or that easy to obtain. So, Lucian, if you want to cover this in a more detail.
Bitdefender uses this multi-layered approach on the technology stack for detection and prevention. So what it makes sense from a performance perspective. You don't need to scan every file which is accessed, which is read, which comes on the computer. So we can always have a set of trusted applications that can execute and read and copy files. You can turn on the filtering to be a bit more aggressive on newly come executables from the internet and so on. So yeah, something like this.
But just to add some more nuances here. So I don't know. Maybe there is an attack, and I'm not going to say something related to a file. Maybe there is an attack that actually, let's say, take into advantage some services that are being misused. Now, if you don't have visibility into the events that refer to that service, then you will not be able to detect it. So, having that kind of visibility could imply that you need to build a new driver or that you need to build a new adapter, something that will provide that visibility. That could also impair certain aspects, of your product. You might, let's say, find yourself in a situation where you can think maybe it will be ideally to block in the initial phase, but if this will, let's say, impair the performance to a very large degree, maybe I will prefer to wait until some other actions are going to happen, which I can easily block on a later stage and block there. It is also a business decision based on your customer. So if you know that your customer expects certain type of parameters, like you need to be good in blocking things, but you also need to be fast and so on, and you need to balance this, then yes, you will have to decide from a technical perspective where you want to do certain things, because this is what it's going to be expected out of you from your customers.
That's what we reflect with different test methodologies. So in our protection testing, we look if the customer is protected, and we don't mind on which stage the customer is protected. The computer, the servers, the clients have to be protected, no matter if it's by blocking the URL or by blocking the download or on execution. On the last stage, the user has to be protected. And on the other hand, as Dragos said, there are enterprises which need a detection response mechanism where we have an EDR test where we do not look at the protection, but on the detection. And some enterprises use two different products or the same products in different settings, one for protection and one for detection, because they need to know what's going on in the networks. And that's also an aspect we have to do in our testing. And by the way, because you asked how we do the testing, we do the testing unannounced. So the vendors don't know when we start the test. So for them, we are a black box as well, because only the moment of the surprise is the good moment. Because the hacker doesn't call you, hey, we are starting to attack you.
Yeah.
Well, then I can also tell you a little bit of a secret on how we deal with tests. We consider that we're always
tested. Yeah.
So it's not a surprise anymore, but we're always tested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, maybe a particular day matters in a different way than another. Who knows? At the same time, or maybe it's a different development cycle or a different release. But I love that you said that.
Dan, sorry to
go for it.
We've seen a lot of scenarios where hackers prefer to target a moment where they kind of know that a security company might not be on the guard. So we've seen interesting attacks that are deployed on Christmas, interesting attacks that are deployed on New Year's Eve, because they kind of know that there aren't a lot of personnel that are doing this. Just to follow the
Yeah, for sure. And
Peter's
Friday
point. So
afternoon is
Friday
the perfect
afternoon,
time
yes.
to
Friday
set a
afternoon,
company.
yeah, and
don't push the prod.
so many attacks that happen on Friday afternoon. Actually, some of my colleagues from the lab keep saying, "Why this happens on Friday?" Because if you think from their perspective, they were kind of expecting, I'm going to go home, weekend,
Of course.
and maybe the attackers actually think about this as well.
Also, the security operations centers of the enterprises,
To kind of
they go into a weekend.
they do still have a weekend,
Yeah.
even if they have a shift.
Yeah.
I love that you said that you brought the subject up about being surprised. I was wondering if you could share an experience or a moment when you don't have to name the vendor or anything, but you were surprised by something a vendor did when they changed something that took you by surprise, and what that was, and how does it? What I'm trying to guess here is how the world is seen through your eyes from your bench in the labs, in the testing labs. I'm trying to see it from your eyes.
In the cybersecurity, we are all lost. We are all lost. There are only three types of users. Either you have been breached, you are breached and you don't know it, or you will be breached.
It will be breached, correct.
Or you will be breached a second time. That's the fourth one.
We were just talking about that, yes.
Yeah. And there's a nice story about a hotel in Austria who got a ransomware attack. And then he paid the ransom. The year after, he was attacked again, got a victim again. Then he changed the keys from the card keys to physical keys again. A year later, he got breached again. And this year, he got breached a fourth time.
Oh my God.
So that's the issue. If you're a large company, that should happen to you, because if you're a hotel, you maybe can deal with it. It's difficult because you don't know when people will arrive or when people will leave. But if you're a large company, you go bankrupt, because if you're a large plant producing some goods and you can't produce them anymore, you go bankrupt. Cybersecurity, a cyber attack can kill your company.
Or just the liability of it for all the other sectors. We were talking in some of the previous episodes about the tax on infrastructure, airports, airlines, so on and so forth, where things have a meaningful impact when it happens. And to your point, you have to agree that getting a subscription for a product is cheaper than the outcome of a potential attack. So,
Sorry, if you talk about what have we seen in the past, we have seen vendors protecting their products with passwords. Of course, you can put in a password that you can access the product, the password. And for one vendor, we found out there's a hard-coded password with 0000 in it. We found it out by accident because one of our guys just typed it in.
okay.
And there's some cybersecurity products just didn't work on a certain day because the API didn't work. So we have been able to breach the product. And that's for us the difficult thing. How do we handle those results? Because it's a one-time thing. And if we see that, we give the vendor a call that he fixes it, because our goal is to make the world safer against cybercrime.
Right.
Not our goal is, of course, to breach vendors, because that's what we're into it. That's our goal, breach vendors, breach cybersecurity vendors. But the main goal is to inform our readers of the reports, inform press and analysts about the results, and give CISOs an overview which products they can buy. That's our goal.
I love that. I think that's it's a great quip on the side. Your goal is to breach the vendors. I want to look at the future a little bit. Like you said, like we were talking earlier about AI and how that changes things. Without revealing any secrets of your strategy, I'm actually looking at having a conversation. Maybe you already spoke about this, but how do we think the whole world's going to look like in a few years, from both the perspective of the relationship between the labs and the customers and then the hackers themselves? How are we?
So the independent labs are more important than ever, because if you look at cybersecurity vendors, they want to sell a product. Of course, they tell everybody they're the best out in the market, and their product protects against everything. And we need to deliver informed results we need to deliver results that a CISO can do an informed decision, an independent result, where we look at the different vendors as much as we can do, and as much vendors as we can test. We cannot test everybody because we are out of capacity sometimes. But that's the main goal, that we deliver those independent results that CISOs can do independent decisions.
And you've over the years, of course, you've expanded from, to different other platforms. Now you're looking into the greater. Are you looking at other spaces other than the classic?
We are looking now, of course, our main focus is still Windows, and that's also a thing. Everybody thinks we need to bypass cybersecurity vendors, but that's not the only thing. We need to bypass the Windows security features as well, because it's always Windows with a cybersecurity vendor on it. So we have to bypass, first of all, Microsoft, and then the cybersecurity vendor. That makes it a bit more difficult, because we are testing on a complete up-to-date Windows 11 system nowadays. Because testing on an outdated system makes sense, because there are a lot of plan switch outdated systems. That's covered as well in our operation technology testing. But we focus on Windows 11, but also on Mac OS, on Android. Mobile stuff is coming more and more. Everybody has a mobile phone. Either it's an iPhone or an Android.
Correct.
And that's a large attack surface. Surface is getting larger.
And naturally, you want to probably migrate and cover everything, or is it something that the market forces on you?
We would love to, but we don't have the capacity to do it.
Understood. Okay, that's reasonable. I was going to touch base a little bit on data sovereignty in the context of the geopolitical tensions, and how that might change both testing and data as well itself. Like, especially, we're in Europe, so Europe is something that we're very familiar with today, and the scope of this conversation. But are you seeing a change, and how do you think that's going to pan out in the new context?
If you look at cybersecurity software, you have on an operating system software, you have always to trust the vendor. The cybersecurity vendor, as well as the operating system vendor, has access to your data. So if we look at any cybersecurity software, they're so deep in the system, they can check for each file you have on the system. So you have to check with the legal environment if you're allowed to do that. If there's the possibility that the file is transmitted to the cybersecurity vendor, you have to check the end user license agreement, and you have to check if you can prohibit the vendor or not, if it's done without your knowledge, with your knowledge, and then you have to select the cybersecurity vendor based on jurisdiction as well. So if you're a critical, how to tell this, if you have critical systems like health stuff, or you're storing data from people, you have to check if the cybersecurity vendor might transmit this in a jurisdiction zone where you don't want to see it, where you don't want to have it. So that's the reason why some vendors are looking for, if they're based in the US, for US vendors, or if they're based in the EU, for European vendors. And that's a very important stuff. Where is your data going to?
Right. And all of these also inform your decisions on the testing side as well, and have to fight for the same priorities that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. We are doing a large test which will be published in about 3 or 4 weeks, and you don't know about that. Nobody knows about that. Where we are looking into data transparency of cybersecurity vendors.
Okay.
And that might be an interesting stuff, which explains a lot.
That's fascinating. So now, like, we're breaking some news, we're teasing something, we're looking forward to see the results of that for sure. So that's all new. That's fascinating to hear. Okay, now I'm not going to press you to reveal any others, but that's exciting. We're going to keep an eye out for that. And then of course you're expanding in other areas as well, right? You're looking as much as you can to cover and be as relevant as you can in the market, I imagine, right?
Yeah, we're starting with Internet of Things. We're looking in the Cyber Resilience Act and the NIS2 initiative. So that's very important as well. It's not only about protection testing, it's all about the legal framework as well. Because it's more and more important that that you also can select cybersecurity software where you can switch off data transmission at all. There is cybersecurity software where you can run a local host, but your data never leaves your company.
Right. I think it's fascinating, and you mentioned IoT and then these certifications as well. I think that's a huge blind spot in the current surface attack surface, obviously. So that's exciting to see for upcoming news, I guess. But you wanted to say something, Dragos, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, yeah, you are correct. In terms of data sovereignty, there are a lot of things to cover here. From a technical perspective, there are also a lot of procedural things that we need to take into consideration. So just let me give you like a very simple example. So let's say that I want to create a new heuristic, like a simple one. It's not relevant, but I cannot be 100% certain that it will be without false positive. I do have my, let's say, sample set of scenarios that I can use to test. I can validate on them and can say, yeah, it detects what it has to detect. It doesn't have any false positive. But the reality is, and I'm not just talking about us, but every security company, is that everybody prefers to have like a period of time where they launch this kind of detection in a, let's say, hidden mode. So the detection is there, but the customer will not be notified by anything. Instead, you will get the data to analyze and to get like a market result to see if you have some false positive or not, and then you're going to actually activate it. That period could be smaller, larger, it depends. But as a procedure, this is something that most security companies are going to do. This actually means that you're going to send some data, and you need that data to analyze and to validate your detection capabilities. So this is something that's going to make an impact with this kind of regulation. That's one. The second one is, while these regulations are important, they are going to be applied differently. So entities like governments and so on, they are going to be much stricter in terms of their data, while some maybe smaller organizations and so on might be more relaxed. Yeah, as Peter said, it's a trust thing, but it's also a compliance thing. And in terms of governments, I'm pretty sure it's never going to be a trust thing. It's going to be a compliance thing. So if they need by law that we need to have everything on premise, then they are going to look for something on premise. It's not something you can or you're ever going to be able to negotiate there. But in terms of another company, that could be some nuances. Like, okay, I'm okay if you're sending the data into a cloud. Maybe it could be like a European cloud, not another type of cloud, or smaller changes that could allow them to be more compliant to some other laws that they want. So yeah, this is a new territory which, and every one of us will have to, let's say, navigate once things are going to be changed there.
It's also a new thing we do, checking cloud vendors, how they protect their users. Because sometimes companies need to upload stuff to the cloud. Right. Of course, you're looking at customer relationship management stuff, you're looking at an enterprise research product program, everything, and you're uploading stuff. And you don't even know which cybersecurity software they are using. And that's our next goal, look at those products and check out how they protect their users as well. And maybe we find out which AV vendors they use in the backend. Because we know which files are protected against from different vendors, so we can do some conclusions. So we know that, and that's maybe some European cloud vendor uses US products, or some US cloud vendors use European products. You never know. And that's an interesting thing as well.
That's fascinating that you can infer the vendors. Of course, that's part of the party truck right there. I think that's really very interesting. I feel like, I feel like between you gentlemen there should be some sort of rivalry, but at the same time some sort of mutual respect.
Rivalry, why?
We have the same goal.
Yeah.
We have the same goal.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, you mentioned earlier, there are three types of products. Tested, no, not tested.
Not breached.
Breached, not breached. Breached, but they don't know. And I would add the fourth, tested.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. There are still products out there which are not tested by us. We try to get them into the test. Sometimes it's hard, but we try everything. So
what I want to stress out is that testing brings something more than just a breach. It gives a holistic view of
yeah, if you see a product on our webpage being tested, it gives a proof of a capability that the product can do its job. Yeah. If you don't see it on the webpage, it might be not tested, it might be not certified. You never know.
And I want to add that lately, Microsoft, for a couple of their restricted programs, they require a product to have certified independent test labs.
For the Microsoft Virus initiative, yes.
Yeah.
It has to be certified by us or another test lab, which is well known. Yeah. So Microsoft, we are one of the labs which can certify for Microsoft, which is a good thing for us as well, and for the users, because so it's ensured that in the Microsoft Security Center are only very capable products.
Yeah, no, I always find it fascinating, and I'm very thankful for the symbiosis that we were just discussing about, how you don't have to fully believe on the claim of a vendor on what they say the product does, because there is independent testing with very thorough, always progressive analysis that will give you a good sense of the capabilities of the product in the current modern day. So I really wanted to revisit this with you. It was like, hey, we've been talking about this for so long, but how did it change over the years? And I'm happy you brought some light to it. And then you made it to have this conversation. I'm very excited about the new capabilities that you're bringing to the testing as well, the ones that you mentioned, and the results for those. And I really want to thank you for all the work that you do to make the world a safer place. And also, thank you for making it to the Cybercrime podcast. So thank you. Thanks again, Peter, for making it here. Thanks for the help, Lucian. Thanks, Dragos. We'll see you on the next one.